Hey, how's it going? This is Chris, and it really is too goddamn early in the morning. Right, what I'm going to be doing next is working on the part that comes out the back of the toe. Okay, well, there's actually a couple of parts that come out the back of the toe. So, what I'm going to do, rather than creating a kit bash library and going over parts that I need over and over and building parts that I need first and then using them over and over again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build parts as I use them, and we can kind of go from there. Now, the first thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to make a box, auto-grid it, and that's going to come out of this bit here, okay, that kind of links onto this part. So, therefore, what I want to do first is get the parts that I'm going to bring this out from. So, I'm going to take these polygons here. Now bear in mind, when I take these out, if I just use detach, and I just attach them as a new object, so this is going to be a toe connection. Now if I was to just isolate this, you'll see already that there's some gaps here that I'm going to need to fill. Now that's not a problem, I can just go straight in here, and do a bridge. That should kind of bridge those pieces. I can only do them one at a time now, think about it. Okay, bridge one. Always used to be able to want to do them all kind of simultaneously, and I remember I wasn't able to. There we go, bridge two. Now, at the bottom, do that again. And bridge. Like that. And then, what I'm going to do is select all of it. Okay, so I select by element, and just flip it. Bing. There we go. Okay, now, with that done, if I end my isolation, you probably think to yourself, well, what was the point of that? Now, if I select this piece, I can just pull it straight out like that. Okay, and I have a piece that I can start going from, because this is basically, it's a kind of an articulated point, but it's also supposed to be a little bit armoured. So, just to give you a kind of an idea of what's going on here. Okay, now I want to break up this bottom piece here, so I'm going to click connect and add 2 segments. Okay, that way it's got the same amount of segments as the top part. And I'm going to just flatten this in, like so. And I just get my modeling tab here and go to Swift Loop. Okay, and just add in that edge there, and then I can just scale this in just a teeny bit like that. Not too much, just a little bit. There we are. And by doing that, what I can do now is hold shift and just bring that in just by a little edge. And I'm going to basically just use a combination of holding down shift and scaling on 2 axes, and then I'm going to use a combination of that and using the move tool like so, and that will allow me to just bring these parts in as I go along. Now at first I did the first piece where I kind of moved down, but I don't want to keep doing that, so I'm going to go and check these corners and just make sure that my chamfers aren't moving in too much as well. I need to do this about maybe 4 times, maybe a few more than that, just to kind of get the general length that I need here. Okay, so again, just inset that. Now, what I could also do if I want to make my job a teeny bit easier perhaps is cap that, and that would give me this. And then what I can do is I can extrude like that, and then I could do perhaps an inset, just a very little one though, because you can probably see there that my chamfers are trying to cross over themselves, and I don't want them to do that. Okay, so click tick, and what I'm going to do is just Zoom in on my chamfer just up here, and take the top chamfer on that side and that side, and hopefully I've got the right ones, you never know. Does not look like I have, that's a shame. Hang on then, I'm getting a bit closer here. Yep, there it is, just there, that one. I'm going to go across. Bear in mind it's early in the morning, so what to you may seem like highly illogical shit is to me like, oh, this is the best way of doing it. So if you're absolutely perplexed as to why I'm doing a thing a certain way, that's why. Okay, I need those two. Now I can pull them both down. Just to give me a little bit more leeway when it comes to my chamfer, you see. One there. And then one there. Alright, now with that suddenly repaired and thus awesome, and that already done, what I can do now is do a bevel back in slightly, and then I can repeat my last extrude, click tick, repeat my last insert, click tick, repeat my last bevel, click tick, repeat my last extrude, like that, you see. And slowly this part starts to come out of the back, and one more is really all I need. So again, if you can remember what I did, insert, bevel, extrude, there we go, like that. Okay, so that gives us that kind of done bit there. Okay, now what I need to do next is I need to build our sub pistons that are going to come out of this, and also want to do a little bit of smoothing to this so that when it connects into the parts I want it to, it looks a little bit better, because at the minute it's kind of a little bit lacking. You can kind of see some of the issues if you don't even look particularly closely. So take this one down, and if I'm doing that one, I'm going to do them both simultaneously that way. Our model does not look poo, which is a constant threat to any serious 3D artist. What's known as having your model look like poo. There we go. Pull that back. We're going to do a lot of noodling, by the way. You know when musicians kind of endlessly play and do, you know, runs of musicals, notes and stuff? That's noodling. We're going to be doing that a lot. Right. Just going to straighten up my edges. I could have done this in a different way, but, you know, I didn't. So, don't blame me. It wasn't my fault, someone else was there doing it. Okay, now if I was to go up here to my open subdivision, I can now do that and get a good idea of what it's going to look like once I smooth it. And that is exactly the shape that I wanted. So, I couldn't be happier with that. Well, it could be if the model had kind of gone off and built itself, but you get the general gist of what I'm saying. Now, if I take off my open subdivision again, just for a minute, I'll go back into here because I want to do some parts involving this edge. Just double click it, and this time, now you may remember that one of the things I tend to do is I tend to do an extrude by, you know, the what do you call it? Extrude by edge. I'm not going to do that this time. So just what I've done is selected one edge there, pressed ring, and then I'm going to hit Control and hit Polygon, and then I'm going to extrude this by local normal and to bring this fella right the way in like that. Now you can see one of the issues has already came about. I'll just zoom out on that one. So if I go to there and press Z, you can see that these are crossed over themselves, but that's easy enough to fix. All I do is I bring that one down and then I bring that one back across, and then suddenly it's not like it's an issue anymore. And this is only a very minor detail part as well, so don't be afraid that you're gonna, you know, not look exactly correct. It'll look exactly as good as you're gonna make it, and you're gonna make it pretty darn good. Okay, so with that piece in, what I can do now, come back out, and I'll just put on open subdiv again so you can kind of see. Now, without any chamfering or anything, that kind of piece there is really very, very rounded. Yeah. So if I drop down to my editable poly, just hit F4, what I can do is just grab those 4 edges, which I can do like that. Okay, because there's no danger of me selecting the back ones at this angle. Do a ring, not a ring, a loop. There we go. And then I can just hit the chamfer button. I'm being careful to reduce my chamfer a little bit until it gets to a thickness that I'm happy with. There we go. Click tick. Now if I was to come out and turn on my open subdiv again, and you can see that that's made a much better variation of that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do with the rest of this is I'm going to convert it straight off to an editable poly and go to my X form. Not X form, sorry, FFD. X form. And I want an FFD 3x3x3. That will give me more control. And if I come in here from my side view and just click up here where it says FFD, okay, you'll see I've got control points highlighted. So what I can do now is I can start to move things about a little bit like that, and that'll give me slightly more control over the shape of my subdivided object, which I can then convert to editable poly, or I can just keep this in the stack if I want to convert it to a slightly different shape later. But you can kind of see now how this is coming along. Now, I have some additional gubbins. That's a term coined by my old chum Squid. Not Squidward, a bit different thing, but Squid. And he always used to call this part gubbins, which seems as good a word as any to me. So I'm going to select this and this, and I'm going to press the ring, so it will basically do that, and then I'll do connect, and now I'm going to chamfer these, or if I don't want to chamfer, another option would be, because I need to keep this edge here with a bit of thickness, you see, what I'm going to do is come in here and do an inset, and I want control over my inset. I'm doing everything in a kind of methodical artist way, so that'll give me the right thickness doing it that way. And then I'm going to take off these 2 bottom pieces here and here. Now, only if you're completely sure that the back end of this is completely flat on should you do both of these at once using a hinge from edge. If you're using a different 3D application, remember, you may have to script yourself a hinge from edge tool, or just check the forums for your software to see if there is one. Maya, for example, has been missing a hinge from edge tool for a long time. Okay, so with these selected, we go to our hinge from edge tool, and we want to use an appropriate amount for our model, if we've smoothed it, or if we've manually smoothed it, or turbo smoothed it. So, pick from hinge, there we go, and I'm going to make this 90 degrees. Now, if our, sorry, 180 degrees. Now, if our model, as it is at the moment, is kind of pre-smoothed by you, then, you know, having 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever isn't going to be enough. Okay, so just give it some thought. So there we go. 12 should probably be okay. Now, rather than having 180 degrees, I'm going to have minus 180 degrees. And click tick. Well, that's a bit mental, isn't it? You may be thinking to yourself, no it isn't. Okay, now hit delete. And there we go, that has put those there. Now, remember what I've said before. If you don't weld your seams, then you've got an open face. So I'm just selecting those and going to the weld button, and you can see that it's decimated me some lovely birds. There we go. So now there's no open spaces in this. So what I can do now is I can use this to start building the detail piece that I need next, which is basically a big ass piston. So if I go into here, and I'm going to build myself a cylinder, and I can use auto grid quite safely now. Look, see, just drag that out to there. Now you may notice that I started it from here, not here. That's because basically I wanted to show that I could do it. If you're creating it right from the edge rather than moving it into position, just be very careful of where you build it out from. Okay, so I'm going to take that out to about there. Now the good thing about this is I'm going to use some symmetry, so I can only need to do this the one time, which will be a big help. Okay, so convert to, and let's have a look. 18 is not going to be enough for detail, so I'm going to use 24. And right click, convert to editable polygon, and that will give us this piece like so, which looks nice. Now what I'm going to do next is grab my poly here and just zoom out, just so I can kind of get the extents of this. That's why I always tend to zoom and then go bridge, bevel. Okay, now remember what I said before about zero lengths, so I'm going to make another one like that, and I'm going to bring it across until it starts to intersect and then stop. There we go, like that. And then, because I can, I'm going to inset this, extrude it back, inset this a bit less, and then I'm going to extrude it back out by a positive amount. So all I do is press extrude and take away the negative symbol, and then click tick, and it comes out again. There we go, and that creates that bit there. Now don't worry, okay, that this bit's overlapping here, because we're going to fix that in just a minute. Okay, there's a lot of parts of this model, especially when I was using kind of the base reference, that, to be honest, to me don't make enough sense. So I like to go back and fix things wherever I can. Okay, don't be afraid to do that. If you see something, for example, I've made that you think to yourself, well, that doesn't make very much sense, go back and fix it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bit and I'm going to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude it by 0, which seems again a weird thing to do, but it's not, because it means I can do that. Go straight out and then just flatten that. There we go, like so. Alright, now with that done, what I'm going to do is take the entire piece and just rotate it. So hold down shift, make sure I've got angle snap on, 180 degrees, done. Now I can take this entire piece and bring it out to about here, and I want to get the length round about right so that I don't have to do too much dicking about. And then, because I quite like this shape, I think I'm going to do a little bit of a adjusting to it. So I'm going to grab this and click attach, and these two parts now are attached together. And then I'm going to take this end and move it back to about there. Now you saw something moved there, so I fix it immediately. Remember, Control Z, never be afraid to use lots of Control Z. Now I'm going to select these bits and bridge them, and that gives me that shape there, which is a good shape. Okay, so that'll give my piece what looks like a lot of strength. Okay, and we've got this kind of nice bit going through the middle here. Now, depending on whether I'm manually smoothing or relying on turbo smooth, will denote kind of which direction I go in next with this. I think I'm going to use well, open subdiv, because that's the cool new toy that they've given us with 3ds Max. Now I'm going to go into this, see this bit here, and this bit to me is kind of important, so I'm going to do this one and I'm going to do the other one simultaneously because I know they'll be the same size then. Otherwise I might have to go back and do some geometry replacing, which is always a massive dick on. Okay, so zoom in. If you're having problems with zooming, just zoom extents and come back in again, by the way. Okay, so chamfer, and chamfered that nice and wide, like that. Okay, now I'm going to take these edges again. And there. And I'm just going to do a connect. And in the same way that I did a hinge from edge earlier, I'm going to do one now. One of those tools that really is sodding useful. If your 3D application doesn't seem to have one, okay, and you can't find a script for it, it's going to be worthwhile trying to make one yourself, but I will do my best to gather resources to help you, if I can. Right, hinge from edge. And, as you can see, it's kind of got the wrong hinge here, so I'm going to select this one. And rather than having it coming in this time, I'm going to have it coming out like that. Click tick. And then hit delete straight away, and that will get rid of my polygon down the bottom there. Okay, now if I then select all the verts there, and again select all the verts there, and do a quick weld, you'll see it's kind of decimated them nicely. And now I have piece for this to be behind. Now, because I've already done a lot of my smoothing down here, okay, if you want this chamfered, then you might have to just chamfer it manually yourself rather than having to rely on other bits to do it. So remember, the chamfer value I used, depending on your scale, was 0.15. Okay, tick. And I'm going to go around the other side too. And it's important to remember this because it's going to give you model consistency. So again, chamfer, 0.15, click tick, done. Okay, and that way you're not going to have such a hard edge looking model as well. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this model, or this piece or whatever, and I'm going to isolate it. Because what I need to do is do some smoothing on it, otherwise it's going to look like caca. And I'm going to hit shift, drag its friend out, and its friend's going to be a reference. Now, why am I doing that? Simple, because if you look over here on our reference compared to our normal, they look the same, okay, in every way, but there is one. Now, look at where it says editable poly there. When I click on the second one, editable poly jumps down because there's a little bar above it. And what that means is that if I was to apply, for example, an open subdivision to this, which I just did, it's not applied to the first one. If it was a reference I was using rather than an instance, or whatever, if it was the other one basically, because that was a, yeah, if it was an instance rather than a reference, see what I mean, memory in the morning, terrible, then both of these would have open subdivision on. Okay, we only want it on this one, so basically everything above this bar is unique to this one piece. Everything on this, therefore, that I adjust that is below the bar on this one will, you'll see. Okay, it's easier to show you. So let's go to Swift Loop. So first of all, I'm going to put a Swift Loop here, and oh look, it straightens that edge. Now I'm going to put another one here, and just take your time. This is actually quite good fun, and you get to see your results straight away if you do it this way, which is always nice. Now the further apart you put these edges, the slightly smoother this is. So it's entirely up to you how smooth or sharp you want it. Like if I put this right here, you'll notice my edge is a lot sharper on that one. Okay, but the good thing is that we're getting kind of an instant feedback. Now I could have two monitors up if I chose, but I didn't. I don't want two monitors up. Not two monitors, I mean two viewports. I really do prefer working on the single viewport. There we go. Now, we can't do a swift loop inside here, but what we can do is select this and this and do a quick inset. And if I reduce my inset to a very small amount, that wasn't a very small amount, that was quite a big amount. I like how 3ds Max kind of tries to tell you, hey, it looks like you're trying to do something. Like goddamn paperclip. Right, there we go. So you can kind of see now, if I just hit F4, the difference. I'm not convinced with these fellas, so I think, yeah, I'm gonna reinsert this a bit more. Yeah, 0.15, that'll be enough. Tick. No, it isn't, it's too big. 0.05, let's try that. Tick. There, that'll do. Right, just to straighten that up, and as you can see, it looks better on that side. Now, in here, where this is, okay, I would like to make it slightly more rounded than it is, so I'm going to go in here, because I don't want heavy rectangular shapes, because they're not very strong rectangles certainly compared to like triangles and circles and things. So if I just go into here and start doing this, just kind of rounding it. Now, if you're having problems like I am, because sometimes I have trouble, then just do this instead. This was, funnily enough, a little trick I got from Lightwave, I think it was. There we go. Click tick. And I can add some extra segments in as well if I want. Like that. But I'm not going to. Okay, so that gives me that shape. Now you can see it's smoothing it like crazy over there, and it looks like terribleness. So what I'm going to do is go back into my Swift loop. Just put one there. And one there. And that's tightened it up a lot on the inside. However, hasn't tightened it up enough in my opinion. Now, the more kind of with it of you may have noticed that I stopped what I was doing suddenly and my model pinged and the name of the top changed. That's because 3ds Max, even in its latest iteration, will still crash like a mofo. So rather than having it do that on us, which it did because it didn't like what I was doing with this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some loose chamfering on this, and that way we will still get a slight curve in this, but not so much of a slight curve, if you kind of get where I'm going from. So I'm going to put that in there. Bring this right to the edge though, because I want this edge tight. It's supposed to be some sort of hardened kind of alloy or plastic or something. By the way, if you're wondering how I recovered my model after 3ds Max crashed, that's why we have auto back. My auto back only went back as far as when I had first done my subdividing on this, but that's enough for me. At least it was that far, and that's kind of important. So okay, now again, see, look, garbage collection error. Garbage collection error. What are you doing? What do you mean garbage collection error? Bloody Max. Right, there. If I get this error multiple times, it says restart Max. Well, I'm sure it will. That's the problem with 3D apps, doing things that they weren't designed to do originally. Like cool stuff. When I first started doing tutorials in 3ds Max, it was like, oh, you can't do high poly scenes in 3ds Max, it wasn't designed for it. Can you bollocks? It was like, oh, you'll never do a multi-million poly scene in Max. Second big project I did was immediately to make a 6 million polygon robot, just to see if you could. Oh wait, you can. You can do whatever the bloody hell you want in any 3D application. You're just going to work around its inconsistencies and problems. And trust me, because 3ds Max is one of the oldest kids on the block now, it's got more inconsistencies and problems than you could possibly bloody imagine. Although on a more rosy note, I got a lovely message off Zap this morning. You may know him as Master Zap, asking very nicely if he could have a robot to use for test rendering in what do you call it? Mental Ray. To which the answer is, of course you can. Zap. Right, I'm just going to inset this one and this one. Now you may notice the inset's quite large. Okay. Reason being really for that is I had to think about it whilst I was watching Max crash and die. And if I do that, then I can use my edge leap in here. See? 1. I mean, for God's sakes, what's an extra 19 polygons or 24 polygons or whatever going to do at this point? There we go. So now, if you hit F4 and zoom in, you can see that we have these little lovelies here, all working nice. Now, what I'm going to do is end isolate. Pow, like that. Did I end my isolation? No, there we go. And I've already got an extra of this anyway now that I just made here, so I may as well use it. Just flop it over like that. That's not a technical term, by the way. And now if I use my move tool, I'm just going to wait until I get to what I like to call the intersecting point. This weird new border thing that 3ds Max is doing is preventing me a little bit from seeing the stuff I'd like to see, but you know, live. There we go. Which makes me think, by the way, that this one may be wider than that one, but that's not a problem. Bring this up a little bit more. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this part just here and I'm going to angle it up. So about 15 degrees should be enough there. And then on this part 15 degrees as well. Okay, and then they're angled in a way that I approve of. See, that's my approving face. Now, I'm going to quickly save this. I've got it saved as WB1, which is a workbench. If I save it as a workbench, it means that if Max crashes, I can pretend it hasn't and look dead clever. Now I'm going to hit smooth. One or more of your object. Oh, they do, don't they? Well, that's okay. We'll just convert them to editable polys. There we go. And now I should be able to smooth. There we go. Auto smooth. And this time 20, not 36, 26. Okay, and that'll smooth all our edges and stuff nicely. See, look at that. Smooth our edges all nicely. Now, I've got a little bit more of the old detailing to do up here. See where this is? So, go back to, oh bugger off 3ds Max. Garbage collection nonsense indeed. I'll be having none of your shenanigans. As my wife calls it, shenanigooglies. Okay, do a ring, pow, and a connect, bam, like that. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is just have a look at this shape here, because I want to get this bit kind of right. Okay, and I'm going to do an extrude, and my extrude's going to be by 0. Click tick. Now I can bring these out. Just flatten it like so, and then bring it out a little bit more. Then I'm going to half these. So by now you should realise, you know, kind of some of my basic methodology here is that I really like to be able to control my shapes, make, you know, hinge from edges a lot, things like that. Hinge from edge. Now I don't need as many polygons in this one as I did before. So 12 is definitely going to be overkill. Let's have an 8. There we go. Just click tick and then delete. And just select all my verts, just do a quick weld, and that'll get rid of flipping loads. We don't know that many gone. That's all our close-up detail going away if you do that. So just grab those and do weld. There, and that's considerably less. Okay, otherwise we're going to lose chamfers and all sorts. Now, with that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cylinder using auto grid, and 18 sides is ideal. I'm just going to bring it straight out, so get it this height, get it straight down to there. Then I'm going to bring it straight out of here. Just adjust the height until it goes through there. So height. Right click, convert to editable poly. And I'm going to take the two end pieces, so here and here, and just do a quick inset. Okay, now I can either attach this to my entire model or not, depending on, you know, do I want to. There's no reason not to, really. It's not an actual moving part, and so the less bits we have floating about, annoying the living tits off us, the better. So what I'm going to do now is do a swift loop there and there. Actually, I don't even need to do a swift loop because I'm not applying open subdivision to this. What I'm going to do instead is just get my edges. So there's one, and this one. So anything that I think is going to need a little chamfer, and if I'm double clicking whilst holding control, which is what I'm doing by the way, then it's important really that you should have a check and make sure you're not selecting anything else that you don't think needs chamfering. For example, these top bits here, they've already got a lot of chamfering in, so if I hold down Alt and marquee deselect, okay, then I'll not be chamfering those bits, which is good because I don't want to. Now go in here and we'll get some sort of colossal kind of chamfer going on. I want 0.075 as mine, which is a nice small one, so it'll give us edge detail, which is what we want. If I pull back now, okay, we can start to kind of see how this is coming together. Wow, that's pretty cool, huh? Yes, it is. Excellent. Now, if I go to my top view, it's about time now to start prepping for the next bit, because I like to leave myself some little kind of Cris clues almost, you know, of what I'm going to be doing next. Right, so I'm going to copy this. Now, I'm not going to mirror it, because if I mirror it, then I'm going to if I mirror it, then I'm going to have to come back and do things like rename parts, and not rename parts, I mean select and flip polygons and stuff like that, you know. So anyway, I'm going to start renaming stuff. So this is cylinder 01, not for long it isn't. This is a toe connection piston. And it's on the right, so I'll call it, well, it's on the toes left, so there we go, toe connect piston L, and this will be toe connect piston R. And that way we have a good hierarchy of what the hell's going in. Toe connect piston R. I used to hate the little tool on the left of my screen, but now I actually really quite like it because I can see what the parts I've named are, and that's helpful. Okay, so hold shift and rotate. Whammo. There we go. Click OK, and that'll rename everything obviously, but I just made them all references, which I didn't want. Do it again. I'm going to make copies, standard copies. Bugger off, Max, no one likes you. Okay, so move that to there, just so I can get an approximate height of this part that I need, and then take these bits, and again, like that. And I think it's important at this point that I label where the front is. So if I go here, okay, to my splines, I can actually put some text straight down there and write the word front, which seems a little bit kind of, well, okay, but yeah, now we know where the front is, which is kind of important. Okay, right, as you see, the renaming was kind of important now though, because we have a lot of bits kind of starting to appear in our model. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to build myself a cylinder, and the sides of my cylinder will be 24 because I can do additional smoothing after that. Now I'm going to bring it out, up, perspective, zoom, and this is going to give me my starting point for basically connecting these fellas together. Okay, this is the ankle. Well, it's the bottom of the ankle. It's more like the sole of the foot, really. Okay, so that's going to go there, like that. Okay, So, if you got this far, I want you to give yourself a shiny. If you don't have any shinies, and you've never seen the UK show, the Shiny Show, which there's no reason for you to do unless you're demented, sad, a stoner, or have small children, get yourself some tin foil and wrap some crap with tin foil, you know, just balls and stuff, and every time you do something well, you take out the shiny and have a little celebration. And that's what we're doing now, because we've got quite far. We've done quite a lot. You know, you've only been following this tutorial for, what, 1 hour 34 minutes or so, once we got past the initial stuff. And if you've followed along with what I'm doing, then you should be round about here. Okay, I'm going to go and get myself a celebratory cup of tea, and give myself a shiny. And I will see you in the next bit.